Hello, hi, how are you? I hope you're good. It is October, which means I'm going to be reviewing a lot of books, a lot of spooky, eerie, fantasy-esque books. They're not all going to be scary, but I think that there are books that really fit for the fall season, and I want to review everything, so get ready, buckle your seat belts. I don't know where I was going with that, but anyway, I have a review today for Sorcery of Thorns by Margaret Rogerson. Margaret Rogerson is really well known for writing standalone fantasy. Her previous book was her debut, and I think it was called An Enchantment of Ravens. I haven't read that one, so I don't know how well received that one was, but it was a standalone fantasy, and I really want to kind of applaud Margaret a bit because I feel as if it's really hard to come by a standalone fantasy, and a standalone fantasy that is really done well, you could say, because I don't know, I feel as if when you're reading fantasy, there's just so much world building that needs to be done. There's so much that has to be said. There's so much character building, so many arcs. I don't know, I feel like that is very hard to do, but I'm really happy with this one because as a standalone fantasy, I was very pleased. And there are reasons why I think she was able to pull this off, and I'll talk about that in a bit, but let's give you a synopsis of Sorcery of Thorns. We follow a orphaned girl who is left on the footsteps of a library. She is taken in and she lives there her entire life, and now she's around, I want to say 16. She's lived in this magical library, a library where the books are kind of categorized by their level of danger. Which is just so cool because these books are just, you know, they come alive. They're these grimoires, and some are just, you know, category 1 where they're, you know, it's okay, they're safe. And then you have like level 10 where these things are monsters and you don't want to mess with these books. So it's really cool in that way, and I really loved the aspect of the library because it's so fun, it's so quirky, it's so, I guess, Harry Potter-esque in a way because of the library. So I really loved that. But there is a murder that takes place within the library, and our main character, Elizabeth, in a way is sort of framed for that murder, and so she has to flee, go on this adventure with this other sorcerer who she doesn't trust at first because she's been living in this library her entire life, and she's told that sorcerers are bad and that the world is bad and that there's so many things that she has implemented in her brain, you know, her outlook on life. But she slowly, as the story is told, her outlook on sorcerers and the world change, you could say. So Elizabeth goes on this adventure on figuring out who this murderer is, this whole plot with the library. It's just a fun journey of a ride, and I don't want to tell you any more plot-wise because of spoilers, but that is the gist of Sorcery of Thorns. And there's so much I want to talk about, but I want to give you some pros, some cons, some things that you may or may not like about this book, and then you can decide if you think this is for you, because I personally really love this book. I thought it was so fun. So first off, I think if you love beautiful writing, you're going to enjoy this because the writing is so elegant and it flows well, and I think it just really captures the reader and gives you such an atmospheric tone, and it's just very well done in that way. Another thing this book did really well is building our main cast of characters. Now we have Elizabeth, and then we have Nathaniel, who's the sorcerer who she kind of goes on a journey with, and then we have Silas, who is Nathaniel's demon partner. I don't want to say servant, but he's kind of like binded to him in a way for reasons that I don't want to tell you. But these characters are so well done. Now I think Elizabeth can be one that a lot of people will not potentially like, and she's our main character, right? So she's kind of pulling the story, and I think the reason for that is because she is so naive. She's very naive. She's very she doesn't have a lot of life experience and a good view of the world. She's lived in this magical library her entire life, and she just knows what she's been told. She's been told so many things about sorcerers, how they're terrible. She doesn't have a lot of experience with kind of people, you could say, so she's just so innocent, and you follow her around and you see how she can kind of do some kind of stupid things at times, and you just kind of roll your eyes and say, oh my gosh, you have no idea, do you? And so that can be really, you know, I can see that annoying people, but I found it so kind of heartwarming in a way, because I don't know, she has no clue, but she's kind of learning as she goes. And I mean, I don't know, I just found that to be really nice, because she was just so trusting and heartwarming in a way. And I mean, it didn't always pan out well for her, but she had really good intentions at heart. And then you have Nathaniel, who is very like one way or the other. He is all over the place. One moment he's happy, one moment he's angry, and he's very wishy-washy. And you learn more about him in the book to why he is the way that he is. And I thought that he was such an interesting character. And there is a romance in this book. It is not the, you know, upfront storyline, but there is a romance, so be prepared for that. And then we have Silas, who is a demon. And Silas is probably one of my favorite characters I have read about this year. He is so bad. He's a terrible character, but he is just so interesting to read about. He's quirky, he's funny, he's hilarious. I loved how this book truly showed you how awful and terrible this character could be, but despite that, you're going to love Silas. I'm telling you right now, you're going to just fall in love with this character. I don't love this character, but I think that he's so fascinating to read about. So there's that. And another thing that I want to talk about with this book is the world building, and how that can definitely be a pro for this being a standalone, but a con if you're looking for more. So this is a standalone, right? So there's not going to be a whole lot of stuff in the world aspect. You don't honestly get to see a lot within this world, and you know, the bits and pieces that we get, the history is there, but it's very loose. It's not very descriptive in your face. You don't get a ton on the lore and everything. Like, you don't know a lot of what's going on within this world, except within the libraries and the hidden and the places that they visit along their way. And I think some people would want to know more about this land, about where they're at, about, like, you know, everything and anything, you know, but you're not going to get that. And I didn't really mind that, because it didn't feel too dense. It felt very light and fluffy, and I really enjoy stuff like that. Of course, I love when a fantasy is super descriptive and I just get into this really unique immersive world, but that's not what this book is about, and I don't think it was trying to be anything than just a fun adventure of a story. And so if you're looking for very, you know, epic fantasy, that's not what this is. It's very light, and for that I found it to be very, you know, fun and endearing. And so in a way I find it to be very unique, because it's able to pull this off in such a fun way, but then it's not unique because it does play along with typical cliches. I think that a lot of people will enjoy it nonetheless, and I think if you're getting into fantasy for the first time, this is a good place to start. If you're a fantasy reader in general already, I don't know if this will be for you, but I really loved it, so yeah. I really enjoyed this. I would love if there was more in this series, of course, but as a standalone, I'm pretty happy with this. And yeah, those are my thoughts on Sorcery of Thorns. Give it a read, maybe, possibly. If you have read it, let me know your thoughts, because I know a lot of people don't like this, but then a lot of people do. So check this out. I think it'll be perfect for the fall season, and I am gonna leave now. I'll see you later. Bye.